We think this is a picture of that Grimes building burning. There isn't anything here on this side of it that you can remember, is there?
No, this was long before our time. This was about 1890 or 91, somewhere along there. They did well to save all the rest of those buildings.
Here's a picture taken right on Sweden Street, and this picture was given to me by Ray Grodrick. Had a studio right down in the right-hand side of this picture, wasn't it, Prescott?
Yes, it was. This clothing store was Charles and Walter Bishop. And here you see 6 horses hauling a big roller, which was made of hardwood planks. People would that had a team of horses would loan them to help pull this roller, and I understand my dad used to loan his horses once in a while, and they used to let the time and the labor go on his taxes. Halls that started.
This is an individual picture of the Republican office.
Later years, this was the Victory Restaurant, located partway up Sweden Street on the way to the post office.
Everybody went to the Victory Restaurant for breakfast. You met in there, and they give you the same thing for breakfast, morning after morning. Who run the post office? Who run the Republican offices at that time?
When we were kids, it was Lyman Pendell.
Now, where did they go from there?
I think some of the Winslow Hall family had something to do with organizing the Republicans.
Where did they go from there? Can you remember?
John Partridge, principal of high school, George Carter, superintendent, and I believe Charles Bishop owned the newspaper for a few years. Bob Taylor, a teacher of ours, was the editor back in the late 30s and 40s.
This is a picture of the Grange Hall, built by the Grange, and the sign over the door says Hines and Smith, and that, of course, is before my time. But who was at it when you was there?
When I worked there, the Caribou Grange had a store, and they went bankrupt. And Oscar and Werner Peterson from out in Colby bought the building and started an IGA store. It was the first IGA store in Caribou, and it was partially self-service and partially, if you wanted to have a clerk to wait on you, we did. I worked there about 4 years, and we did a tremendous business for the times.
And upstairs now, what was upstairs?
Upstairs was the Rudy Theater.
At the time you worked there?
Yes. And on the side, where the farm machinery is, along the side of the building, they built an addition on there, and the Grange store had a shoe store there before that. And when the Petersons were there was a restaurant. Eddie Knowles had the restaurant there, and later Margaret Smith bought him out and ran the restaurant. The store beyond the Grange Hall was Fred Norton's farm machinery business.
Now, before the Rudy Theater is what they call the Opera House.
Right.
And the stage up there is where they had stage plays, and I have a picture of my father in a play up there at the time.
Yeah. They had a horseshoe balcony. They used to play basketball up there and hold dances. I went to dances there when I was younger.
Of course, the Clark block is long gone, so they had to have some place. That's, can you remember anything else about that?
They had a fire and burned. I don't remember the date, but
This was taken, of course, years later at the upper end of Sweet Street. And you know anything about what was in here? It was a rooming house upstairs.
Yes, there was a rooming house upstairs. Mrs. Thibodeau, I believe her name was the lady of that ran the rooming house. The brick building on the left was the G.M. Morgan furniture store, now a theater. This Tibbetts building burned before urban renewal started.
I was standing over there looking at the foundation after they cleaned up the mist, and Ralph Scott told me that some of the old church foundation was there. He took it out for me, pointed out. So the church wasn't as big as that building. This is the first Methodist church, and it's set right there where that building we just showed you. And I think I read somewhere where it was built for $2,500. This is a later picture of the church, and it shows the new addition that they have on it. We're at the upper end of Sweden Street now. This is the courthouse. That's the way that it looked like when we were younger. You didn't get a chance to go up and play around there.
No, I stayed away from courthouses.
That's the way that it looked before they built that beautiful addition. This shows a picture of the way that Caribou looked before they did all their changing for urban renewal. And Prescott's showing you the municipal building. What's the rest of it?
This is municipal building. This is the old square. Powers filling station. And these are the these buildings were all torn down right through here. And this is the Hackett block, Bushard block. This is Sweden Street.
Main Street right there.
This is Main Street.
Down below here we've got Richie's.
Richie's drugstore down here.
That's there today. That's the only building on that street that's there now, isn't it?
This is where the hotel is up here. Caribou Hotel, and then it's all mostly doctor's offices now. The hotel went out of business.
Come up here, up to the Bartlett block. Right in there.
This is where the old Bartlett block was, and the library is right in here.
I think the library.
The old fire station was here in the municipal building.
Yeah.
And this is High Street. This is North Main, up through here. And Herschel Street is right here.
Well, did they take Herschel Street out? Did they move Herschel Street?
No,
It does now.
no. This is the old National Confectionery building, and Nelson Gonier's hardware store right here. Willard McLaughlin's insurance.
And then you got the Holmes block.
And then the Holmes block was right here. That's gone. They had a fire.
All this place is,
And this has all been torn down.
all of this area.
All this area here.
Here's an aerial picture of the way that it is today. Prescott's got his pointer on to where the Richie's drugstore is.
Yeah, this is Water Street here. And this is the municipal building up here. Here's High Street. Here's the library and the parking lot. This property right here is where the Bartlett buildings were. And this is all rotary traffic going this way. Around here's Herschel Street. Down here is the mall. These are all new buildings here. Right here is where the Holmes block used to be, and the Clark block right here. Here's South Maine. The steam laundry was down here.
All these are all new buildings over here now. These are the.
Yeah, these are all new.
By the way, this is a picture out of the Republican. This is why it looks quite grainy. This is a picture taken from on top of the old Grange Hall, or Rudy Theater, whichever. And Prescott will show you the...
Taken in 1942. And this is the Jim Mitchell building, which burned a few years after this. And Hackett block and the municipal buildings right here. And this is High Street. This is Sweden Street. Woolworth Company, J.J. Newberry, right here.
Post office.
Post office,
Over here.
right here. And right over here was the Heinz and Smith's Hardware. Then the Powers Theater was next. Over here, after you go by the post office, J.C. Penney. And then the Grange store going up Sweden Street, going west.
Guess that's it. We'll have another picture. Here's a picture of the Powers Theater. It burned. What year was that, Prescott?
About 1944. I was working there then.
What time of day did it burn?
Oh, started around 6 o'clock.
Before the show.
Yeah, I was home to supper and fire alarm blew in and I went down. My uncle was the manager of the theater, Ralph Roberts. And I was working there, and Raymond Swenson Sr. was the operator.
What did they contribute the fire to?
Started in the back end.
Down by the screen?
Yeah, in the back of the screen. Probably electrical
It was electrical.
fire.
You said that they took some right off the top of that?
Yes, we dropped the top story off in this building and put a different type roof on. It had a slope on it. Before it was a flat roof. And this N.W. Downing and Prescott had the contract to renew the theater. All we had left after we cleaned it out was the walls. And this street next to it is Stevens Street.
This is a picture, I think, is the last of what would be the Burleigh Hotel. As near as I can find out, the Burleigh Hotel kind of disintegrated into apartments or rents, and Habib owned 2 restaurants down below. What about those restaurants? Do you remember?
Mike Corey had this restaurant right here on the corner. This was Habib's over here. Mr. Frost had a barber shop right in here. And the next building here was L.S. Hall. Upstairs
were rooms ran by a lady, Mrs. Frost, when I remember, took in roomers up here. And it was her husband that had the barber shop.
Doctor, you got approximately the date of this.
Well, this was before the Powers Theater fire, probably a year or two. And Downing from Prescott rebuilt both places at the same time, the Powers Theater and this building. Nelson Solomon bought this property here, and he had bowling alleys in here for a while. Back before this fire, Dick Daigle had a bowling alley down cellar, down in here, where the pointer is, for many years. And now, today, this location right here is a drugstore, Brooks Drugstore. Has the whole corner.
Before that, they just had part of it, and
Yeah.
Lupo had his store there.
Lupo had a clothing store here for a
Down
while.
in the corner.
Yeah.
But we wondered for a long time trying to find out when the Burleigh Hotel burned, and that's the picture. Here's another shot of the same fire, and take notice of the M and Lando. They came in here and it was the biggest store we had in town. It was supposed to have a quarter of a mile of counter space. You know any more about Lando?
This was there for about 20 years. Then it became Courier Furniture.
And that should,
And now that has gone out of business and the building is vacant.
notice the old fire engine. That was the old ladder truck. The only one that I can remember. The first ladder truck I remember. This is more of a modern shot of the old Grange store. This is IGA when Peterson had it.
Yes, this was 1940. This was the steps leading up to the front door of the store. This was Ed's Grill, which years before that was a Grange store shoe store. Down in here was Marion Davenport and Arlene Hemingway had a beauty shop down here called the Marley Beauty Shop. And Fred McLaughlin had a shoe store, shoe repair later years. Walter Murphy had a barber shop over here on the corner many years. Then when I worked here, this was a restaurant, and it changed hands 3 or 4 times. This was the alleyway between the penny store and the Grange store, the old Grange store.
Well, that's good. This is a picture taken out of the Republican, isn't it?
Yes.
Prescott? And it shows the shot of, this would be the last buildings that were there before they were torn down for urban renewal. Can you remember what was there, Prescott?
This was the Holmes block, one on the corner, down on Sweden Street. Down here was Skates' drugstore and a barber shop up here.
Well, now that's Jerry Smith's office,
Right.
right?
Jerry Smith had an office down there, and Edgar Ross. This was Willard McLaughlin's insurance office right here, and this was Nelson Gonier's Hardware. This building was National Confectionery, owned by Claire Piper, this building. She lived upstairs. 3 apartments up here. And
Now-
this North Maine.
If we was going to describe where that picture was taken from, it would be almost in the police department's parking lot up close to the road, right?
Right.
looking up towards North Maine. This is taken from the same place, and they swung the camera going up towards Sweden Street. These buildings are all gone up as far as where?
As far as the post office, which is right in here,
Right
in this area.
All those buildings came down.
All of these here.
Well, I think this picture was taken, if you came down High Street and swung up to go in the rotary and you went to stepped onto that little island there, you'd be just about in the right place where this picture was taken, wouldn't you? Yeah. Think so? Well, and
Kind of southwest from the library.
yeah.
This is the Hackett block. Right here. Radio Shack is on the corner. Ned Martin's clothing store. Right in here. And this was Briggs Hardware. This was Doctor's Pharmacy. This was the Rustic Trust Bank.
They're all gone.
They're all gone now. This was Ray Broderick's studio, camera shop. Many years ago, this was the entrance. This was an alleyway to P.J. Powers' first movie theater. We're not sure which building the theater was in. I believe both buildings belong to S.W. Collins. Avy's Pharmacy was right here many years, and H.O. Spencer on the right of Havy's Pharmacy, and Jockey Johnson later had jewelry store there. Upstairs on the right hand corner was Dr. Bonnie's dentist office. There were apartments upstairs in these two buildings. Many families lived here over the years.
You want to tell them about the Swedish boys?
The Swedish boys used to come down here from New Sweden, Stockholm, and would rent a room and go to high school. Where Havy's Pharmacy is located here, years ago, my grandfather, George B. Roberts, had a 5-chair barbershop.
Here's another picture taken from the paper, and it shows a good picture of the old buildings that were tore down. That you say was what there?
This was a bank block all along here. Ralph Roberts had a barbershop in here. G.G. Weckham had a clothing store. The old Cloverdale First National Store was in here.
What's that show there?
That's
now?
Buzzles.
Oh, Buzzles, yeah.
And up here was C.P. Huzzy Company, later years, and I forget what this was.
That's
was,
now, that whole thing was Freems there.
yeah, that was Freems, and this was Layla Bell's luncheonette. Upstairs here years ago, the Matoka Club used to be up here. And Dr. Boone had a dental office up here. Federation Fertilizer over here upstairs. Mrs. Guy Milton had a restaurant up here. This was the old 5 and 10.
Now that was the last building tore down. That's Wyman.
John Wyman bought the building, and that was torn down.
And everybody went in noontime to eat the bells.
Right. Good food there.
That's right. You could come in the back door or the front door, either one.